January 27th, roughly, 1800 hours. So I've been working on the motor controller, or continuing to work on the motor controller for the cameras. And thanks to some suggestions online, I've now bent out 3 of the control pins. Maybe if I put my finger right here. 3 of the control pins and kind of rewired them via jumper wires. So now the motor panels, the motor PWM signals and brake signals and all that are on different pins. And success! It works really great. So that actually solved a lot of conflicts with the network card or network shield or network components or whatever the hell they are. And so that's running. So I now have my code in there. And here's my little test motor, and you can hopefully see there's a little guy on there. And I'll send one of my test commands, and you can see that it just stair steps its way around a little bit. And we'll go back the other direction at a different speed. So the command runs for approximately, a second at this point. I haven't kind of figured out yet how to do kind of like a stacking. What I'd like to do is, it's like you send it a command, and it kind of builds up a really fast time base. So if you were to click, 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 click a button, it would, it'd build up 10 second, or sorry, 100 thousandths of a second. Builds those up so that it'll actually keep turning for a second, then it'll slow down and stop. I don't know if that's exactly the right direction to go yet, but that's the direction I'm kind of at right now. So I've got at least one of the motors working. I need to get the up and down motor programmed in, which shouldn't really be too much of a problem. And then I also need to get the additional commands, like the pass-throughs and stuff like that. But for the most part, this is actually starting to come together. And it's actually structured in a way that allows for the network communication to happen, and allows also for the motor monitoring and things like that to be off on a different timer and keeps kind of chunking around over there. So it's running through on its own independent interrupting timer. So it's kind of actually pretty cool as far as I'm concerned. So it's fun for me. 1833 hours, and I've had kind of a weird problem. I'm trying to implement the up and down, and it's it's kind of a weird problem. Here, let me restart the Arduino here, and we'll boot this guy up. Now you can see flashing is reporting data. I'll come over here, and this is the amount of time moves. They're really not really important, but when I send the command to move up, okay, let me explain a little bit. I issue an amount of time to move, and then I say, okay, subtract that time from it until you get to 0, and then stop moving. So it's kind of like a time-based moving system. Well, here's the thing. It's really kind of strange. Is I'm printing these values. Focus camera. There we go. I'm printing the zeros, and you can see 0 for azimuth move time and altitude move time. These are obviously azimuth is the rotation in a circle, and altitude is the up and down. Anyways, so I'll issue the up and down command, and it goes from 0 to still 0. Oh, sorry, not connected. So I'll issue the command, and now it reads negative 31,072. I have no idea why it's doing that, and it's doing it for both azimuth and elevation. And it doesn't actually start the motor either, which is very odd. 19-20 hours, and I've made a couple tweaks and whatnot, but you can kind of I cut the interval time in half on this thing, so it's a little bit slower, it's a little bit more responsive, I guess. And I've gotten rid of some data logging stuff because, it's for debugging. So that's working. One of the kind of cool things that I think it's cool. You can, if you look up here, when I do this, do this little like that, you'll see. So that's the motor driver that's connected to this motor. So and it's actually running really slow right now. But one thing that's kind of cool, and this is one thing that the weather camera can't do because the controller is limited. But so you've got one channel, the glowing channel right now, is for, let's say, azimuth or rotation movement. Well, the other one's going to be for elevation or tilt. Well, the way this is built, I'll load in some pan, and then when I click this, it can actually execute at the same time, right at the same time, both tilt and pan moves at the same time. So in other words, the camera can actually move diagonally, which is, for me, is really kind of cool. So it makes me actually kind of pretty happy. So that's pretty much the only thing I've been able to make as a difference between beginning and end. But that's working. I really don't have any A to D stuff happening yet, only because I haven't really worked on it yet. So I played around with the setup a little bit more, and now I have a wonderful little pot that's tied into analog 4 and 5 over here through my wonderful jump stuff. So now I've got it set up so that if I send, let's see, where's my, oops, that's not set right. Hold on. If I send camera S, which is what the other one does as well, if I send that out, I get a reply. Right now it's in count, which it's a double count, which, okay, that kind of sucks, but hopefully if I work on it enough, I can get some degrees out of it and whatnot and get an actual reporting out of it. So that's set up and that's ready. I think the last little part that's really all I have to do is now really connect it to the robot and make those numbers mean something, as well as try and figure out any last minute like little then I'll have kind of the idea of where I need to go with everything so that I can either modify boards or, I don't know, at least I'm ready to move to the next step, I think. And that's it for tonight.